All right, last one.
All right, well, this will put you in a better mood. Dave Grohl and his mom, Virginia Hanlon Grohl, appeared on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert last week, at the end of the week, to promote his mom's book called From Cradle to Stage. They spent some time talking about the profound sadness that went along with Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain's death, but then the mood lightened when Colbert surprised Grohl with his 6th grade report card that his mother brought to the show. Anyone who was a bad student or who has a kid who's a bad student might want to pay close attention to this.
This here was a tough year here. Let's see. Respects authority. Needs improvement. Is courteous. Needs improvement. Accepts responsibility. Unsatisfactory. Exercises self-control. Needs improvement. Exerts effort. Unsatisfactory. Begins and completes work on time. Unsatisfactory. Uses time wisely. Works neatly. Works accurately.
How long is this segment?
Dave, we have to talk about this.
You know, I gotta be honest. I was kicking ass up until 1st grade, and then it was all downhill from there.
That's a good line. I was kicking ass till 1st grade.
And then you get the sweetest, most successful.
You almost have to do poorly in that format if you are any kind of creator. Mm-hmm. Whether it's jobs or songs, like that is not your format. Sit still, color within the lines, don't get over the lines. You memorize a bunch of shit that you inherently know is not interesting and you'll never use again. Like, you are essentially assured of failure if you have any kind of unique voice or creativity or whatever. And I'm not going artist, like, hey, he's an artist, man. He's got to dance to his own drummer. I just mean, if you're Elon Musk, we talked about it, or any kind of creator, free thinker, if you're any kind of all the people we sort of worship in society,
how do we make it better?
Nobody would do well in that environment.
How do you make it better? I don't know.
You make it less about just recall.
What
we should be doing, and maybe this is just cathartic because I went through this and it was horrible and I hated school and I was bad at it and I was just called like, oh, he's disruptive and he's not good and he's bad. And there's a couple things that are bad. First off,
I felt bad for the mom, by the way. That reflects on her. She's just sitting there going, oh, shit.
You have one yardstick to measure intelligence from 0 to 18, and that's your report card. There is no, now it's easy. It's like, oh, well, Adam's not much of a speller or reader, but he's a sharp guy, like he's an intelligent guy. Back then, it was just nothing. Mm-hmm. You get a D, you're dumb. You get an A, you're smart. And that's how we referred to it. It's like, oh, sit next to Cynthia Nagatani. She's smart. She gets A. It's like, you ate her. Hey, that guy's dumb. Like, we just was easy. You got a piece of paper to let you know if you're smart or dumb. So it didn't help me personally, and I've got many, many, many millions of young kids. When I left high school, I was like, well, you're dumb. Now what? Well, look, go to a construction site. Get a dumb job. Pick up garbage for a living on a construction site or dig ditches, because that's what dumb people would do. Why would you think you're anything other than dumb? We have a rich history of papers that have you marked down as dumb. So that's bad. The other thing we need to do is, some people like working with their hands. Some people like being up on their feet. Other people like solving problems. Other people want to work with kids. Whatever it is. It shows itself pretty early and often with kids. You get a real good idea of whether they're into animals or not into animals, whether they're into being outside or they want to be inside. It becomes abundantly evident and clear early what they're into. And if they're into working with their hands, and then look, good, let's get a curriculum that can focus on that and get them better and more confident and thriving or whatever. Maybe they're into numbers. That's another curriculum. Take a second with the fucking kids and see what they're doing instead of just trying to mash them all into the same place. Are they still mashing
them? Because these days, I would think there's have to be some evolution since when I was in school.
Not much.
I think you can pay to be unmashed.
It's pretty much just, memorize all the capitals and, here's all your spelling. Here's the different ways to spell there, and just memorize it and just do it. And a certain amount of that is fine. But I had kids that were just all over the road, and nobody ever said, well, you got something going. It's just clearly not going to work in this class, but you do have you're obviously you're intelligent. Why? Let's focus on steering you this direction. Like, it seems as a society, it seems like the worst plan ever because we set up all these schools. We pay all this money. We have all these teachers and pensions and everything. It's like it's so much money. And then the kids get dumped out at 17 and a half or 18 and they just start wandering around, going for, let's get a job at McDonald's. Those kids could have learned TIG welding and MIG welding and pipe fitting or whatever, accounting, whatever they're doing. They could have learned it. Yeah. In all those years. Why just, here's a general thing and then we'll just dump you. And
it sounds like it needs to like it's almost like a big thinking outside the box. Like you can't do it the way it's been done, but people don't want to change like that.
No, but
they don't want to change.
Why not sit with a fucking 13-year-old and go, what are you into?
Yeah.
What do you like to do?
Don't the good teachers do that?
No. I never. Even the good ones never. No one ever asked me, what do you like to do? What do you think you would be good at? What could you see yourself doing in a number of years?
I think they're I think they're out there, but they're sadly few and far between.
Can I give a sort of an adjacent example to this that I haven't thought about in a million years? When I think it was in first grade, I went to a hearing specialist many times because my teachers told my parents that they thought I was deaf.
Really?
Yes. So I had to sit for hours at a time, and if I heard a certain noise, drop a block in a bowl or whatever. And there were times. But I was clearly not deaf. Right. And I was putting the block, and they could not figure out what was going on. They said, "Well, when she's in class, it's like she doesn't hear us, so she must be deaf." So I had to go to a hearing specialist over and over again. Turns out I wasn't a good attention payer. I had ADD. I was drifting. I was imagining things. I was doodling. I was singing to myself. But I wasn't deaf. I wasn't hard of hearing. But they figured Gina's not paying attention. She must not be able to hear.
It turns out teachers aren't that good. The system's not that good. The counselors. My counselor, Mr. Tomey, I'd never even talked. The idea of calling him a counselor, it'd be like calling a probation officer your life coach. It's like,
the counselors were basically there.
He sat in his office, and when you got suspended, you had to go talk to him, and he'd pull your emergency card and call your dad at work.
They were there to keep you in line.
Yeah, but I had no relationship with Mr. Tomey whatsoever, other than getting busted or into trouble, and then he'd call my dad at work. There was zero counseling or mentorship or there's no shaping at all. The whole idea was that guy has you because your last name starts with a C and he does A through G. Yeah. And so you're in his jurisdiction, and your deal here at North Hollywood High is see if you can make it 3 years without ever seeing that guy.
Yeah.
That was the whole plan.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the extent of the Mr. Tomey counseling with me.
They're too prison-like. It's just like, it felt like prison.
Absolutely.
All right. You have this, you have this, you have this.
Let's bring it home.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad. That was the news with Gina Grad.